everyone, and welcome to Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, the weekly podcast that helps you grow your business, improve your life, and enjoy yourself along the way. I'm your host, Allan Langer, and every week we try to bring you the best thought leaders, the best business leaders, and the best minds out there to help you succeed in business and in life. So sit back, relax, grab your pad, your pen, and your favorite beverage, and enjoy the next episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. This is your host, Allan Langer, and I've got an exciting guest coming up tonight from across the pond from the UK. I've got Sam Dunning coming up. He's from Bath, England. And before we get to Sam, just a couple of housekeeping notes, as I always start my podcast with the website address, which is marketingandsalespodcast.com. Don't forget to visit the site. You can leave reviews. You can send me questions. But the big section is at the top of the site. You'll see the Ask Allan button. If you click on that and you send me a question, if I end up reading your question on the air, you get a free signed copy of my book. And we've got a good question coming up from Joseph over in Austin, Texas later on. So this is episode 51. You are just past the half century mark, Sam. So you're the first podcast for the second half of the 100 that I'm heading for. So welcome to the show, Sam. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Allan. All good on this end, man. Looking forward to chatting today. And thanks for having me on, dude.
So hopefully, when we're recording this, things were still bad in England from a COVID standpoint. When this comes out, I'm hoping things are a lot better. So here's wishing everything's safe with you guys and your family, and hope when this comes out, everyone's listening and say, yes, we've got to the other side of this. So.
Oh, I hope so, man. Getting tired of lockdown. Just unfortunate that I can still run and carry on in the digital world from home. So yeah. Blessed in that sense. Just a bit itching to get out there, start doing sports, go to the pub, have a beer, see my friends. All that good stuff that you miss. All that stuff that we're social animals, man. We need to get out there in front of people, right? This is it, man.
All right. Well, speaking of social, so Sam is the owner of Web Choice, and they build websites, they do SEO strategies, they do all kinds of really cool stuff to help your business grow from a social media standpoint and from a website standpoint. And Sam actually had me on his podcast, and we kind of focused on the sales end of things. But I want Sam to talk about today on how a lot of the small business owners in my audience can really take advantage of some website expertise, because I think, and maybe you can agree, you agree or disagree with me, Sam, I think most small businesses get websites wrong, or they're talking to the wrong website companies. What do you think their first, I got a small business, I need to start a website. Do I do it myself? Do I hire someone? What are your couple of suggestions you'd make right off the bat?
Yeah, there's a lot of considerations, Allan. You're exactly right. And I think there's many mistakes when it comes to designing a website, to building a website, and to also marketing it. And there's so many I could choose, but I think one of the key takeaways, which is something I'm talking about a lot right now, is not designing the website for your own ego. So not designing something that you think looks great and you're really, really happy with, but designing it for your ideal customers or the clients that you actually want to hook through the site. So what do I mean by that? Well, essentially, I've been guilty of it in the past as well, designing sites and what I think look awesome in terms of the color schemes, in terms of the main pages, the information that's there, how they're set out, how they're laid out, when really we should be thinking about, well, ultimately, through both the design, the structure, the layout, and also the copy, so the messaging that's across the site. Is this going to engage my ideal customer? Is it going to hook them? Is it going to be of value to them? Is it going to build trust with them? And ultimately, depending on whether we're selling directly through the website or whether we want to generate in leads or inquiries, is it going to convert them from just browsing to actually taking that action, taking that step and filling out a contact form, giving us a call, or if we're selling products, making that all important purchase. So we've got to look at it more from a user perspective than from our own views, if that makes sense. Didn't really answer your question, but gave us a good conversation starting point.
It made a lot of sense, because the biggest mistake I see business owners make, even large companies, is they make the website all pretty and cute and wow, everybody claps in the boardroom. But if it takes and you know this because this comes from the story brand model, is if it takes the human brain more than, I don't know, 8 seconds to figure out what you sell, they're going to the next website. They don't want to spend time trying to figure that out. And that's what people really need to understand, is you need to hook them. That first thing that pops up needs to say, stay on my website, and this is why.
Yeah, exactly. So to go back to your original question, yes, you can do it yourself. There's plenty of tools out there to design, build websites. Ultimately, it depends whether you've got the time to put in the research. You've got to speak to your clients about what they like, what they dislike, build the copy, craft all the designs, and do that. If you've got the time, great. Perhaps you've got a marketing team that can do that for you. Otherwise, you might need professional help. Depends on what resources you've got. But just like you said, Alan, one of the most important things is you've only got seconds. You've only got a few seconds as soon as someone lands on your website to give them the messaging and let them know if you can help them or not. And just like you referred to there with Story Brand, as Donald Miller coined, there's something called the grunt test, which is a really powerful test to run on your website. So if someone stuck your website homepage in front of a caveman sitting in their cave, could they, within a few seconds, grunt exactly what you do, exactly how you could help them, and how they can get in touch? If they can't grunt those things within a few seconds, then your website's not doing its job properly, and you're probably losing money if you're spending time or even worse, your own money into ads or whatever marketing strategy to actually drive people onto this site.
Yeah, I actually, when I became a Story Brand certified guide back in November of 2019, before COVID. Okay. And I'll never forget when he said just exactly what you said. Need to know what you do, how to get it, what you sell, how they can get it, and how it's going to make their life better. And he also said to put the grunt test to the test. And he said, sit in a coffee shop, and when someone sits next to you, put up your website and ask them if they can answer those 3 questions in 10 seconds. Yeah. I did that. On my original website, they couldn't. And I'm like, damn, he's right. And so I revamped my entire website so those 3 questions could be answered right away.
Yeah, and some pet peeves, Alan. Don't get me started too much, but it's when businesses rant on too much about how good they are instead of how they actually help their customers. So it's like when you land on a homepage or a landing page, and it's like, we're award winning, we're the best in class for this, we are so great. It's like, well, that's all good, but ultimately that's not helping your customer. When really you've got to tell them straight away the problem you solve or how you make their life or their business better. Otherwise, it's not really giving them a quick insight into what you do and how you can help them. Right.
And that goes into one of the biggest sales problems too, is salespeople talk about features way too much and ignore the benefits or how it's going to help a customer. They could do a feature dump, or they walk in and talk about their product immediately. Don't ask the right questions. Just like your website, it really has to answer questions right away, so they can keep scrolling and say, you know what, I think this person can actually help me. That's what really a website's for.
Yeah, it's like you say, being a sales professional, your website's just the same. You've got to be a useful resource. So you're asking the right questions. You're building those layers of trust. You're just like you say, encouraging people to scroll further, learn more about what you can do, and potentially get them to take the next step.
So here's a question. I've heard this quite a few times now. I interviewed Chris Walker, who's like a marketing guru. You may have seen him on LinkedIn. And his big thing, and it's really interesting because this is not how people think. People think that a relationship with a customer should start on your website. And he actually says the relationship with the customer should start on social media, which should then get them to your website where they already have built affinity with you. Do you agree with that?
Depends. I don't know if there's a set answer. I mean, obviously he's going to push social, I believe that his company does a lot through LinkedIn. I've seen Chris Walker. I don't know a great deal about him, but it makes sense if he's going to push social. Ultimately, yes, you can start building relationships. You can start building trust on social if that's where your clients are hanging out. So if you're B2B, then probably business professionals, your ideal clients will be hanging out on LinkedIn. If you're B2C, it might be Facebook, it might be Instagram, it might be some other channel. If you're B2B or B2C, they're probably going to be using Google to search. So things like search engine optimization is worthwhile. Things like Google Ads probably worthwhile, depending on what you're doing. So there's so many different channels, or it could be a podcast, it could be a webinar. There's so many different channels, Alan, depending on our business, where these relationships can start, where people can first hear about our brand, gain information about our brand and then decide whether they want to go to our website or landing page. So I'd say it's quite a broad term, whether it's social, depending on where our clients are at.
So do you, is there a specific industry that you say, yeah, you definitely should start on social, or you definitely should start with SEO, or it just really depends on the company specifically itself?
Yeah, I mean, usually it's very company dependent.
Okay.
But I mean, for example, if you're, let's say you're B2B, you're selling software, maybe you're doing software as a service, like you're selling CRM solutions, or you're selling, I don't know, some kind of online system that manages leads or manages appointments or something like that, some kind of CRM, then the chances are you're going to be working with business professionals. So you're going to be pitching to them. So yeah, you probably want to look at LinkedIn as a marketing platform, because you can actively connect, engage, and put out content that's going to link up to the people you want to be speaking to and having sales conversations with. But then likewise, depending on what resources, what marketing budget you've got, you're going to be wanting to look at things like SEO to get organically positioned on Google. So when people search for your product, so if they're searching like best CRM provider, you come up top long-term organically in the searches. You might want to look at some kind of paid media, whether that's Google AdWords. So you've got the fast short-term traffic at the top of Google and the bottom of Google listings, or whether that's paid listings on LinkedIn. So there's quite a lot of channels. Ultimately, it depends on how fast you want to get this traffic, how fast you want to start the sales conversations, as to which channels you want to look at, and how much resources you have in-house to actually manage all these channels at the same time.
Yeah. Well, what you're saying to me is it's dizzying, and I'm sure it's overwhelming and dizzying to a lot of business owners. So it sounds like the best thing to do is to hire a professional to do this stuff, because it's just, there's just no way I would be able to do any, half of what you just said. I guess the question is, how do you find, like, what do you look for when you hire someone to do this? Is there specific things that you should be looking for in their experience, or should they be an expert in SEO, or so? What would you recommend looking for when they need to hire someone to do this?
Yeah, it's a good point. I guess first, understand what you're comfortable doing yourself, whether you're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, what you're actually comfortable looking after from a website, from a marketing perspective. So it might be that you're really, really good on LinkedIn. So you've got that absolutely nailed. You're able to make connections. You're able to put out content consistently. You're able to start conversations with your ideal customers. So you've got that nailed. Great. So you may want to look at other avenues. So let's say we'll carry on with the software CRM route. Let's say you want to be found on Google. So as a long-term solution, you might want to look at SEO. How do you find a trusted company? Well, I mean, usually you'd want to, if it's SEO especially, you probably want to look for a company that's ranking well on Google themselves. So when you search for the service they offer, they come up top. That would be a good place to start. And then much like anything, I mean, you want to probably check out, see they've got a few solid reviews and testimonials. You want to chat when you're actually having a conversation with them, just like speaking to a salesperson. You want to make sure they're actually taking the time to understand what your business does, how you generate work or leads right at the moment, and asking you questions about where you want to get to, i.e. what are you doing right now to generate business? Where do you want to get to in 12 months time? Why is that important to you? So a company that takes the time to understand where your business is right now and where you want to get to see if you align together to achieve those results. I mean, that's a quick snapshot of what I'd say is quite important.
That's so critical. When people ask me similar questions about other industries, I'm like, the company or the person that asks you those questions, like, how can I solve your problem? Tell me what your problem is, rather than just starting to go into, well, this is this great software that we have. That's the company you want to do business with, because they're starting with you. They're not starting with themselves. Yeah,
exactly. So a business that would take the time to understand where you're at, what issues you've got right now, where you want to get to, why that's important to you. So yeah, that's quite key, rather than just looking at a few companies. Well, it's much the same with any industry, Alan, as I'm sure you agree. Until you can actually have a conversation with them, it's not until then that you'll get a feel if they're a good fit or not.
Yeah. So touch on this is a pretty ongoing conversation you see, especially on LinkedIn, where the automated bots, the automated sales messages are going out en masse to all these different people, and you can tell it's not a real person. It's a robot sent it out. that clearly, I mean, I always say, people always say it doesn't work. I'm like, well, if it didn't work, they wouldn't keep doing it. So I think I read there's like a 1.2% success rate in those things. But people are always forgetting about the other 99% that they're pissing off. So
yeah.
Obviously, I think I know what your answer is, but tell people that they need to avoid that. Like, why do they need to avoid something like that? Because it's such a I think it's an invasive kind of feeling that you get when you get one.
Oh yeah, I mean we've been guilty of doing that in the past. So when I first started on LinkedIn, this is probably not, how many years ago are we talking now? Probably 5, 6, maybe more years ago. When I first started on it, that was when I thought it was, well, initially I thought LinkedIn was a CV based website, so just to find jobs. Then I realized you could find work on it. Then I started I don't think we had bots, but what I did was I just built this pitch on Notepad editor, copied it, and just pasted it to every connection I could. Control V, Control V, Control V. And then I thought, if I spend like 5 hours doing this a day, I could get one lead. And that one lead might eventually get me a sale. It's like, and then I realized this is not a great use of my time. This is probably pissing off 99% of the people that I go to. Yes, if you throw enough mud at a wall, something will stick eventually. But you're leaving a trail of fire behind you, and you're probably losing a bunch of connections. You're annoying a bunch of people. Yes, you might get a lead eventually. Is it going to be worth your time investment? Probably not. Yes, you can now get automated bots to do that for you, but you're still going to annoy a bunch of people in the way. And there's a lot better ways on LinkedIn, on other marketing channels to get inbound opportunities for sure.
So what would you say? Well, give us 1 or 2 ways that you would that you'd recommend besides that.
On LinkedIn specifically?
Yeah, on LinkedIn specifically. Yeah, I think most of my listeners come from LinkedIn.
Sure. So, yeah, I think one of the most important things is to create content, but not just to create anything, but to create a piece of content that's going to be, that your ideal customer is going to find useful, informative, or helpful, or entertaining. So useful, entertaining, or helpful is my usual three tips. So how do you do that? Well, there's a bunch of ways that I use, or like a framework that I use to actually create the content. So I think some of the best ways, because sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I haven't got ideas on what to post. But as I'm sure you've talked about on the show before, Allan, posting consistently, posting not just anything, but something that's going to be relevant and helpful to your ideal customers is important to get those leads and build that trust over time. So a few quick ideas on how you can actually do that is you can use questions that your customers have asked you in the past. You can make a list of all these common questions that you get from your customers, whether that's on sales calls, whether that's via email, via social. So, Sam, how do you do X, Y, Z? Sam, what's the best way to do a website? Sam, how should I design a homepage? Like, how do I get SEO quick wins? So all these common questions that you get, common problems, quick tips. So quick tips to achieve X, Y, Z. Comical things. So I've actually used some of my best posts were sales conversations that I've had over the phone, and I've just quoted those out. So a quick example, I had a chap a while back, and he basically said he wanted a website for his cybersecurity business. And what did he say? He said, so I asked him, I said, look, tell me more about your business, what you do, how you operate. So he said, okay, I go into companies like small banks, financial institutions. They pay me a couple grand a day, and we'll do a full cybersecurity audit and then construct a plan to help them become cybersecurity proof, and we'll put all this authority into place and these regulations in place. I said, great. So why do you need a website? We said, I'm not getting enough inquiries from my contracting recruitment company, so I need to get more inbound opportunities directly to me. I said, great. Okay, that's given me a good idea. So we can do this website that showcases exactly what you do, builds trust, showcases your services. And if we market it right, it can hook inbound leads so you don't have to pay recruitment fees, and you can get inbound opportunities straight into your inbox. He said, great. He said, how much is that going to cost? I said, probably about 5-6 grand. He said, Sam, that's really expensive. I said, hold on a second. You told me you're charging people 2 grand a day. How is that expensive? And he laughed and he said, Sam, that's a great point. Let's discuss it further. So I just put conversations like that actually happened to me. And some of those real life conversations get the best engagement. But there's so many things about that, things that clients ask you that you'll speak to people about that you can rework into content. Just make a list of it on your phone, on the notes app. That's what I tend to do. And
that's
quite
brilliant.
often the relatable posts are some of the best hitters.
some of the best hitters. You just reminded me that I'll give a quick sales tip off of the story you just told, because the human brain psychologically works where you hear a price and you have a knee-jerk reaction to it, and your brain doesn't think logically with pricing. So as you said, he's charging $2,000 a day. You're going to be $5,000 for the website. It's literally a no-brainer. But they look at the $5,000. You have to bring people back to the logical point of it. Like, okay, if your average sale is 10,000 and your investment with me is 5,000, you basically need a half a sale to pay for to pay for me. So when you frame it that way, it's like, oh yeah, you're right. This is kind of a no-brainer. So think about it that way. Bring people back to what their average sale is to justify spending the money with you.
Exactly. Yeah, and it comes back to asking good questions and taking the time to understand what your customers are doing now, why it's important, what their issues are, and where they want to get to. So it helps you later on in the conversation.
Absolutely.
Or sometimes leads for a funny LinkedIn post.
So Sam, how did you get to where you are? Like, tell us how you got to owning your company and what your background is and how you became this super expert web guy, social guy, SEO guy.
Yeah. Don't know about the expert part, but in terms of my story, I'll give you the short version. How I got into sales, because I've sold a bit of everything over the years. So I did first work in a camera shop. So for anyone tuning in from the UK, they'll know a shop called Jessup's, which sells basically camera equipment. So like DSLRs, digital cameras, memory cards, all that good stuff. So I did that. And that was one of my first jobs. Did that for about a year or so. Just realized that I really hated working with the general public. And essentially I'd go up to everyone looking at the glass counter, looking at a digital camera and say, "Hello, sir," or "Hello, ma'am, how can I help you today?" And they'd basically turn around and usually tell me to piss off, or "I'm absolutely fine," or turn away, or say, "I'm just looking, just browsing," the usual response. And after that weighed me down for about a year, and there was no bonus structure, I should add, that probably didn't help. So basically our managers was pushing us to sell as many cameras, add-ons, memory cards, insurance plans as we could, but there's no benefit. So it's like, why am I trying to work my ass off for nothing? On top of this manager that's like breathing down my neck. I probably should add that I was about 18 at the time, so I was drinking quite a lot on the weekends and then turning up late, which probably didn't help. So they probably were very right to be angry at me. Anyway, had enough of that, and my cousin, who's one of the co-owners at WebChoice now, mentioned there was a job coming up for a web company. I said, "Sounds interesting." He said, "Can you come in for an interview tomorrow?" I said, "Sure." Did the interview, got the job, left the camera store the next day. And yeah, quick story, one of the first websites I ever sold, I've told this on a couple podcasts, but essentially a lead came in and they asked me to take it. I said, "Well, I've never talked to someone on the phone or sold anything on the phone. How do I do it?" They just said, "Well, just find out what he needs and then we can give him a quote." And so he said, the chap on the phone said he needed a website like LinkedIn. I was like, right, okay. I don't think I'd even heard of LinkedIn at this stage. So I was on the computer typing in what LinkedIn was. And then he said, went through his requirements. And I was just saying yes to everything. "Can you do this, Sam?" "Yes." "Can you do this?" "Yes." "I've got £500 to build LinkedIn." "Yep, that's fine." Sold a website on my first ever call, probably undersold it by about $1 million. And sold this massive site for the smallest budget ever. But luckily, we did get away with it because he wanted a couple other smaller sites. So we managed to kind of sweeten him up with this deal. But yeah, did that. But I have had other jobs in between. So I have, back then I was just a junior project manager at WebChoice and just doing a bit of sales. I've worked in a call center in between. But then I came back to WebChoice about 3 years ago and just worked my way up from sales manager to now one of the 3 owners. And I head up the sales department now. But yeah, just found my passion for helping businesses grow with SEO, with websites that convert leads, and just really enjoy digital marketing. So that's a quick snapshot of my years so far.
So the moral of the story is you actually started LinkedIn, right?
Well, yeah, I don't like to brag, but that £500 has gone really far.
That's quite a great investment for that gentleman, but that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the Ask Allan segment. This has been great, Sam. Thanks for joining me again. And we've got a good one for you. You've talked about a lot so far, but this is the question we got. This is from Joseph in Austin, Texas, United States, obviously. Joseph writes in, Would love to hear a website expert on your show coming up. So obviously, Joseph, we got your wish today. If so, ask them what would be the top 3 things I can do to drive more traffic to my website. Thank you very much. Well, thanks for the question, Joe. How would you answer that, Mr.
Cool.
Dunning?
Well, Joseph, first of all, if you're driving all this traffic, I hope you've got a website that does everything we've covered so far. So I hope it clearly defines your message, the problem you solve, how you can help people, and makes it nice and easy for people to get in touch with you or make that purchase. And I hope it loads lightning quick as well. So just a few pointers before we get to the traffic. So traffic-wise, well, I'd say we need to think about where your customers actually are. Do we know what his business is, or is he?
It doesn't say, unfortunately. So I need to have people be more specific, but it doesn't say.
No problem. So I mean, Google's a good bet because nearly everyone's Googling everything. So SEO is going to be worthwhile to drive traffic. So actually getting your website positioned organically in the Google search results. So a few quick ideas on how you can do that. Content is king when it comes to SEO. So making sure that you're regularly putting out blogs, articles, that kind of stuff. You can do them both on your website and you can do them on other sites. Making sure that the information pages on your website answer what people are searching for. So linking back to, I don't know why I keep banging on CRM, but I do for some reason when I go on podcasts, just the only thing that can come up in my small mind. So let's say you were a CRM provider. People are probably going to search on Google best CRM provider. So you probably want an information page with the heading tag best CRM provider, and you probably want a page that tells them what to look for to find the best CRM provider, maybe a video tutorial, maybe an infographic. Google loves content that answers people's questions. So do people. If I'm searching for something and if I search in Google best CRM provider and there's a page and I click on it and it doesn't give me the answer I was looking for, I'm going to go away to a competitor. So make sure your website informs people fully into how you can help them, and make sure your content is crafted around the search terms you actually want people to find you for, and then gives them all the answers to their questions. Really important. You can do that in a multitude of ways through video content, actually text content, images. So yeah, making sure that that's there is key. So yeah, SEO is really good long term. There's many more tips and tricks. There's tons on my LinkedIn. So just check out my LinkedIn for daily tips on that front. Paid ads is a good way to get fast traffic. So SEO is more longer term. Paid media. So whether that's Google ads, whether that's Facebook or Instagram ads, if your audience hangs out on social, LinkedIn ads, which are a bit more pricey, more B2B, tend to be for more enterprise level, not always. So that's going to be a good way to get fast traffic, get fast people to your website and get some leads and sales. And then if you're a bit strapped for cash after spending all this money on paid ads and SEO, maybe you should start a podcast like Allan and I have done. And one of the best ways is just, get going, building a podcast, plenty of guides out there on how to do it, and start interviewing your ideal customers. Or if you can't be asked to do a podcast, just do a short video interview series, even on Zoom, tools like we're using now. Post them on social, post them on LinkedIn, make a list of your ideal clients that you want to do business with, pitch them to come on your podcast. From experience, I've seen that 99% of people you ask, as long as you do a sensibly crafted email or LinkedIn message that shows that you've researched them, you've watched the show, you say what you've enjoyed, people like to promote themselves. So if you invite them onto your show, the chances are they're going to say yes. I know because I've done it to over 120 people. And then you're building a relationship with people that you want to be starting conversations to. That's my 3 top tips for now. There's plenty more.
That last one, that advice is so spot on, because the amount of people that will say yes to you going on a podcast compared to the amount of people that will say yes to you to have a conversation is about triple. It really is. It's like, if you're calling that, it's 100% to probably 30%. So 20%. And here's a funny story. I'm going to tell a quick, because you mentioned it and it popped in my head. So I've had, of all the people I've asked on my podcast, so you're number 51. I've only had one person tell me no. I've had a couple of people say, I'm too busy right now, but I'll do it in the spring, kind of thing. Yep. I saw this very young lady. She was 20, I think she was. And I saw that I was on TikTok one day, and she has over 2 million followers, and she does glass blowing. I'm not going to say her name. So I look her up, and she does have a LinkedIn account, and I hadn't done anything on TikTok prior. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll have her on so she can give us some TikTok tips.
Yeah.
So I reached out to her, and her response, I just said, can you be, love to have you on. You have 2 million followers, blah, blah, blah. Her response wasn't like, thank you for reaching out. All it said was, I only do podcasts that have 10,000 downloads or more. That was her response. And I was like, whoa, I'm sorry, Miss 20-year-old social media queen. So
yeah,
that's the only one that ever told me no, because she was so pretty much full of herself that she's like, I'm only going to do podcasts that have this amount. So
yeah,
if you get approached for a podcast, say yes, go on the podcast.
Exactly. I mean, it's good exposure and it gives you content, and there's really only positives to it. And like you say, I think we've done 115, 116 episodes, and maybe had one or two that just didn't reply or said no. But like you say, people love to talk about themselves, just as I've done for the last half hour. And it's great promotion for both you and the guest. Plus, you can get your ideal clients on it. It's a bit of fun. So it's so much positives, fun. Really.
It really is. All right, Sam Dunning. Well, this has been awesome. I want to thank you for joining me from way over across the pond. I know we didn't have cocktails because it's morning for me, and I didn't even ask you if you had a cocktail, but I have iced coffee. So, but I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to thank everyone out there for joining me for episode number 51 of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. Sam, before we go, how can people find you? And tell people how they can get in touch with you if they want any website questions or even help with their website directly.
Yeah, appreciate it, Alan. Thanks for having me on. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me you saw me on Alan's show. It's Sam Dunning. So my surname is Dunning. Love to connect with you there. Otherwise, if you run a business and you're frustrated that your website's not converting a regular flow of inbound customers, or perhaps you're spending money on marketing and people are failing to find you on Google and you're just tired of the competition enjoying all your leads and revenue from Google or from other sites, then do give us a shout. The website is webchoiceuk.com. That's webchoiceuk.com. And finally, I run a podcast just like Alan here, where we interview business leaders to provide actionable marketing tips twice a week. That's Business Growth Show.
Twice a week. So we were talking about this pre-recording, and he does this twice a week. I think he's nuts, but I can only handle once a week. But congratulations on your success, Sam, and your podcast was awesome when I was on it. So I want to thank you for having me on there as well. And again, so thanks for joining me today. And again, everyone, thank you out there for joining me on episode 51. Remember, the website is marketingandsalespodcast.com. Go to the Ask Allan segment, send me a question. And just like Joe from Austin, Texas, you will get a free signed copy of my book. That's it for today, everyone. Thank you for joining Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. We'll see you again next time.